Okay, OCR revision topic. We've got two in one here, internal organisational structures and the role of functional areas. I've put them both together because they make sense that they go together to me, but then my brain does work a bit differently for most people. Internal organisational structures and the role of functional areas. Q. So, functional areas of a business are generally those functions that keep the business working. Can anybody tell me what a few of them might be?
Sales, production.
A bit slower. Sales, production.
Customer service.
Excellent. Customer service.
Distribution.
Yeah.
Admin.
Nice. Admin. We all love admin.
We do indeed.
Any others?
Purchasing department.
Purchasing. Very important. Raw materials.
Did I say production?
You've got production.
Sales.
We've got sales.
That's it.
We've got IT. You've got customer service. Have we got anything else?
Human resources.
HR, yeah, very important. HR, getting all the people.
The finance department.
What? Marketing. That goes next to sales, I guess.
Research and development.
We've got them all now. R&D. So there's quite a few departments.
Oh.
And basically, functional areas grow as the company grows. So if you were a sole trader, would you have functional areas?
Yeah.
Would you?
No, you wouldn't.
Only you.
No, you wouldn't.
If you became a partnership,
you would, because you have more people in the business.
there's a chance that you might start thinking about it.
But you wouldn't if you're a sole trader, because you're on your own doing the business.
Exactly. So you might, as a partnership, decide that one half does half of it, and the other person does the other half of it. So you might split it all into two functional areas, and one person does half, the other person does half. But if you then grew to be an LTD, if you notice the people are now outside the circle, why is that? Why have I now put those people
because
out?
shares have been bought.
Shares have been bought.
Right.
And that business is now a separate legal entity in its own right, and those people work for the business, they are not the business. These people here, there's no difference between them and the business. But now, LTD, we're starting to grow into this company. So once we get into an LTD and a PLC, we will start developing functional areas. So functional areas are quite important, and you've named them all. And we talked about that. So a PLC is no real different to an LTD. It's just got more shareholders, more structures, bigger organisations. So LTDs and PLCs would definitely have developed all this structure to run the business. And they develop all this structure for a simple reason. And that is, the busier the business gets, the more it needs to be organised to deal with the different things that are going on. Okay?
What's an LTD?
LTD is a limited company, a private limited company, owned by me and you if we set one up. Nobody else. If you have 50% of shares and I have 50% of shares. Public limited company. Well done. Good question. So this is a typical hierarchical structure, organisational structure of how people fit into this kind of functional area. So this is the functional area, or as it suggests, the different functions of a business that need people in it. So if that's the functional area, we're then moving across very quickly to hierarchical structures. And those hierarchical structures are made up of 4 levels. Does anybody know what they are?
Management is level 3, I think.
Well done, managers.
What is it? Directors, is it?
Where's that go?
4.
Directors.
You got just like workers, no employees, 1.
Employees, level 1. What's missing?
2 is, what is it? Supervisors.
Excellent. So you've done some revision on this. So supervisors, excuse the spelling, are in that organisational structure. So there is a level 5. Anybody remember what level 5 is? No. That would be the Chief Executive Officer or the MD, depending if it's a PLC or
what does MD mean?
Managing Director. So that director manages all those directors. So that would be, if you've got an exam question saying what is an organisational structure for 2 marks, you've got to explain but it's the levels of the hierarchy based in functional areas. If you got shown this organisational structure and had to put those into the different levels, it's worth looking at that in a bit more detail when you get the video at home, because those positions you would need to be able to drop. So for instance, that's all admin, that's all HR, that's production, and that's sales. So if we had to put into there a managing director, where would he go? Or she go?
Just above the manager. Where?
Managing director would go where?
At the top.
At the top.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what you might have to put into your question paper for level unit 1. Next slide. So there are different names that you need to know about. And a matrix structure, if you get asked that for 2 marks in an exam question, a matrix structure is a temporary structure. So say you decided to build houses in Oxted, you might get, your company might be so big, you might pull a plumber, a sparky, a carpenter, a roofer, and a brickie. What's missing?
A window cleaner.
A
window person.
A glazer.
That's the one.
So you might pull different people from different parts of the company just to put them on building this house or 2 in Oxted. And if you're going to do that, that's called a matrix
Organagram.
organogram, organisational structure. It just means you've pulled a team of people together for that one job, and then they'll go away and work with somebody else. So that's a great, building sites are a great way of putting a matrix organisational structure into place. Next slide. Quite important this. Levels of hierarchy. If somebody asks you what level of hierarchy was, you'd have to explain that for 2 marks. The number of layers of management or supervision in the organisational structure. That's why I put level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 next to that diagram, because you won't have the levels in your exam paper, but you will be able to count the levels and say how many levels are in that organisational structure. Happy with that?
Yeah.
Next slide, please. Now, this is quite important because you might know the levels, but you might not fully understand what each level does. So your level 4 director
Responsible for planning.
is a long-term
Business plan.
planner. We say long-term, we're talking about
5 years.
5 to 10 years. Not many people think 5 to 10 years these days, but those people are paid to do that. And like it says there, their earning potential is probably between £50,000 and £250,000 a year. Don't forget, if you get a recruitment and selection question on where to find those people, you will probably find those people either advertising in the national press, in a nice magazine or newspaper, probably a newspaper, Guardian, Telegraph, Times, or you might go and headhunt them. What does headhunting mean?
Find them yourself.
Go and find them yourself through an agency. Good. Level 3, managers. And as that slide suggests,
Responsible for setting targets and measuring performance.
exactly. So they're target setters. They set targets and measure. If we set targets, we can measure to see if we've achieved the targets. Managers are paid for setting targets and measuring to see if they've hit them. And they're paid quite well for that. Generally between 25 grand a year when you start picking that, and £125,000 an annum. And again, you might go and headhunt yourself a manager, or you might use an agency, a recruitment agency, to find your manager. Level 2 generally are supervisors. What's their job?
They look after like the employees in different
The
shifts and
supervisors,
stuff.
the workers and the employees.
They do. They are making sure that the day-to-day tasks and the standards
Oh,
are maintained, yeah.
They take instructions from the manager.
They do. They've got a pig in the middle job because they're actually keeping an eye on the workers or the employees. So I'd say that's the toughest job. The best managers are who? Best managers?
those who communicate with the supervisors.
Yes, they are. But the best managers have normally been Fantastic supervisors. If you get somebody from university and they get promoted straight into managers' roles, they're not particularly effective because they haven't done any of this working. So generally, the best workers are the people that have been, the best supervisors are the people that have worked on the shop floor. If you remember the chap who used to run Tesco's, the chief executive, O'Leary, he started at the bottom and ended up at the top of Tesco's. So the people that are homegrown from the bottom up, so don't ever think, oh, it's embarrassing, I'm starting from the bottom. The people that work from the bottom and get to the top normally understand how everything works all the way down. So the best supervisors are the best workers, the best managers have been the best supervisors. But the supervisors are getting piggy in the middle because they're getting all the hassle from the managers and having to feed it back, and they're also getting all the hassle from the workers and having to feed it back. So I would say that the supervisor is probably the most challenging position in any organisation. And they don't get paid a lot for that. They're probably on about £12, £15 an hour or living wage. But they do maintain standards. Whereas the workers, what do workers do?
They take orders from supervisors.
They do. They're there, they're trained to do their job.
And do the day-to-day
And they do the day-to-day. Fantastic. Next slide, please. So, we're not going to worry about that slide because you can click the link online. But that slide is a nice example of what?
A hierarchy.
A tall hierarchical structure. Do we like tall?
No,
Why?
because it's hard to get like you can't communicate with the CEO.
You can't get a message across.
Yeah.
It's hard to get the message across. Communication up and down is slow, it's effective at all, it's very slow to get things done. What else don't we like about it?
Confusing.
It could be confusing if you don't know who does what, it could be even longer than that. How many levels has that structure got?
6.
6 levels on that hierarchical structure. So that's called a tall structure. But what do we have to do with all these people in that structure? We have to pay them what? Well, surely we have to pay them a wage. So it's quite expensive to have such a tall structure. People like the BBC and Oxfam have very tall structures. Next slide, please. As opposed to a flat structure. What do we think about the flat hierarchical structure?
Better, because it's easier to get the message through, and it's like there's less people for waiting.
Fantastic.
More organised.
More organised. Less levels. We've taken levels out. That's a 2-mark exam question there a couple of years ago. Delayering means taking levels out. And you generally have those kind of structures in creative industries where people don't want to be bossed and controlled. It saves money, it improves communication, and it's a better environment for creative people to work in. Fantastic. What don't we like about that?
It's too wide, so you sort of don't know where to go. Like if you've got messages.
You know where to go. This poor person here, this manager here, has got how many people to manage? Is that doable?
No.
No, it's very difficult to manage more than 3 or 4 people. So what you might want to do there is split that, have 2 managers, one managing that side and one managing the other. At the end of the day, these people have got to get things done. And they're not going to get things done if they're not managed effectively. So you need to make sure your span of control, 2-mark question, span of control is, think about it as a wingspan on a big eagle. If you've got lots of people under that wingspan, then it's hard to look after all of them. You know, a golden eagle would have struggled to look after 7 chicks without people getting them, or people nicking their eggs, or people nicking the birds, or other golden eagles attacking the birds. So a wingspan of 7 is hard work. We don't like big wingspans, but we do like golden eagles. Whereas a narrow span of control is what? What do we like about that? Simple.
Easy to get the message.
Easy to get a message across. Weekly meeting, right, what are we going to do this week? This and this. 3 things, 3 people. Okay, we'll come back Friday, see if we've got it all done. Quick. And then your 6-mark questions on analysis really ought to do about impact, communication, motivation. And all I've put there is the flatter, the narrower, the better the communication from top down and from bottom up. The wider, the taller, the worse communication, often the case. Quality is normally associated with good communication and people talking to each other, because if people stop talking to each other, generally the quality drops off. Efficiency is also associated with good communication, because people are constantly talking about how to make things better. And motivation is also improved if people have good communication. So it's important to get the structure right, because if you don't get the structure right, it's not going to be a profitable business. And I believe, from my experience in running businesses, that if you get the structure right, and you get the right people with the right skill set, doing the right job in that structure, you will build a world-class organisation that gets good products and services, gets lots of sales, makes lots of profit, and attracts good quality people. So it's important that you get the structure right and the functional areas with the right people in the right function to improve quality and motivation. Brilliant. 2-mark question, what does outsourcing mean?
It's when
It's when a firm hire an outside firm to run over or more of its functional areas.
Nice one. So for instance, Lidl and Aldi could outsource all their functional areas, or the distribution functional area, and give it to somebody else to distribute all their products or services. They don't, but they could. Richard Branson's very good at outsourcing services that he doesn't need to run himself to other companies. There's a company called All Day PA, if you look online, and they provide a virtual reception telephone answering service to anybody who's small that hasn't got time to answer the phone on their behalf. So, another example here is when Waitrose outsourced their home delivery service right at the very beginning and got a company called Ocado to do it for them. But since then, Ocado have turned into their own massive PLC. So if you can find a part of the business that's expensive to run, and you can do it quicker and cheaper some other way, outsourcing is probably the answer to that. 2-mark question we've talked about. Anybody remember what it is? Delayering.
it's where they take layers out of that hierarchy to make it, like cost reduction, profit.
Exactly. So you take a whole layer out. You might take not a supervisory layer, hopefully. You might take a management layer out or a director layer out. But you've got to make sure that if you do that, the layer above is happy to manage the layer that's left below them. So it does reduce cost. It does save time talking to people. And obviously as a result of that, it can maximise profit. So delayering is okay, but make sure you take the right layer out. That's all I'd say. And then finally, the big 9-mark evaluation, or the icing on the cake, is you need to pick the right organisational structure for the right type of business. We've talked about different businesses today, including the building site firms. You need to get the right structure to make a business profitable and efficient. Once you've got the structure right, you've got to put the best people into that structure so that that business will be a profitable business. You don't want to get the wrong people in that structure because it's going to mess up the communication, atmosphere and culture of the company. But if you get the right people in there, that's going to add to the mix. We've also talked about today that functional areas are quite important because the functional areas, moving on to the next topic we're going to talk about, aims and objectives are normally the same for a business, and every functional area has to contribute to those aims and objectives. So if you haven't got good functional areas that are all full of the right people contributing to those overall aims and objectives, the chances are that that business isn't going to achieve its aims and objectives overall, because they're all linked. The other point I'd like to make is that these functional areas are there to support each other. So the HR, who'll be looking after pay, is making sure everybody gets paid. The admin is making sure that everybody's admin is running to the same standard. The other departments, such as IT, are there to make sure everybody's IT needs are met. So functional areas are really there to support each other. They don't work in isolation. They're very much there to support the aims and objectives of the business. And if you get it right, it's absolutely fantastic. I think that's the two sections covered, if I'm not mistaken. Excellent.